Greetings and welcome to Pluralsight. My name is Bruce McKenzie-Low and you are watching Advanced Troubleshooting Techniques for Windows Server. In this first module, we'll talk about analyzing software crashes, the most common blue screen of death. So, to give you an overview, I'd like to start out by giving you an introduction to the course. We'll discuss the various modules and what you can expect to learn from them. Then we'll jump into the brunt of the course material, the software crashes, which are the most common type of BSOD, or blue screen of death. You may also have heard them called bug checks or stop codes, or a few choice other words. We'll then dive into a few debugging demonstrations to give you some real-world experience with what is involved with the process of analyzing a crash dump. We'll review several crash dumps, including a stop 19, which is a bad pool header, a stop 24, which is an NTFS file system bug check, a stop 7F, which is an unexpected kernel mode trap, and a stop D1, which is a driver IRQL not less or equal. Finally, we'll wrap things up, give you a summary, describe what you've learned. So, to give you an introduction to the course, Advanced Troubleshooting Techniques for Windows Server. Don't let the title fool you, because the course material equally applies to all the desktop SKUs, i.e. Windows 10, or maybe you're still running Windows 8.1. It also applies to all the different server versions. So you could be running the latest and greatest Windows Server 2016, or you may have a system that crashed running Windows Server 2008 R2 SP1. So this material is applicable to all the different versions of the operating system. So to start out with, giving you an overview of the course modules, we'll begin with the software BSOD. These are software crashes that are caused typically by device drivers. Yes, a portion of the NT kernel could have been responsible for the crash, but that's kind of highly unlikely because Microsoft does a very good job of checking all their various drivers in the NT kernel to make sure things are working well before they release it. However, with all the different layered products, third-party products that are installed on Windows, there's a high chance that one of those drivers may misbehave. That's what causes these software blue screens of death. We'll then get into a hardware blue screen of death. This is when various hardware components such as the processor or memory or maybe even a device out there on your PCI bus is malfunctioning, and that causes the system to crash. There's other types of crashes, as we'll see in Module 3, where timeout crashes. This is when we have some sort of watchdog timer that expires and we haven't received an input from a device or whatnot. Rather than jeopardizing the integrity of the operating system, essentially Windows will cause the system to crash. There's other ways systems can have outages, such as lockups and hangs. So we'll go over some troubleshooting techniques of how you can essentially force a crash and then determine why it locked up. Another reason a system may lock up or crash is when it runs out of various resources, such as a non-page pool or page file space. So I'll show you how to go about analyzing a crash and determining if any of these resources have been depleted. We'll then take a look at performance outages and how you can set up jobs to essentially gather performance information and then analyze it to detect any bottlenecks that could explain your performance outages. I'll then talk about advanced techniques that you can utilize to track down very intermittent problems that'll collect more data for you, such as forcing a crash dump. Finally, we'll finish up with those best practices that you can employ to help make sure you gather all the troubleshooting data you need when you experience an outage. So I did want to mention that there's a couple courses out there that you may want to take a look at before you begin this course. These are fundamental courses that teach you the basic how-tos, such as the Windows kernel debugging fundamentals. This course will essentially tell you how to set up the debugger, how to install it, and the various debugging commands that you might utilize. I'm going to assume that you've already set up the debugger and are somewhat familiar with it. There's also a course on Windows Performance Monitoring Fundamentals. As we're going to be touching on troubleshooting with performance, it may be a good idea to get some background on those various tools and techniques.